The Urban Farmer, powered by Organics Limited. After blowing my mind with the amazing idea of Seedballs, today Teddy Kinyanjui shows me how you make charcoal at home using a homemade kiln.
This is how charcoal making works. So what happens, the basic premise on charcoal making is partial combustion in the absence of oxygen. And so there's enough burning in this piece of wood that it takes off all the moisture, all the cellulose, the lignin, and all that's left is pure carbon. And so what happens with this kiln, you can use basically any size of wood, between about this big and down to this tiny little thin one.
Okay.
So that's really nice because it means even less waste for all of your production thing. So how the kiln works is you get it going, you light a fire inside of it at the very bottom, and you can imagine this fire now is from down here. And once the air has to come in from the top, which is the same place the smoke is going out,
Right.
so it slows down the rate of burning to make it really smolder slowly instead of going fast,
Yes.
and turning into ashes.
Yeah.
And so you fill it up to the top with whatever it is you're making into charcoal. And what happens is this band of fire that started here, that's working its way up as like a 2-inch wide band. By the time it gets to about this high, there's no oxygen that's coming down to the bottom because
Right.
it's all being burned where the fire is.
Yeah.
And then what you do is all you have to do is watch this smoke, and you can feel even with your hands, it's got a little bit of maji in it, it's sort of moist.
Yeah.
So now after a few more hours, this smoke will turn from this white, which is all of the gases and impurities coming off, to a very light blue, almost see-through. And you know everything's been burned out of the wood except the carbon, and now it's ready to be turned off.
Okay.
So all you do is you just put your little lid on it, put that on, that stops the airflow coming in, and then that's what will extinguish the coal.
And then you have your
Yeah,
charcoal
and then you have
ready.
your charcoal. And so after a few years of doing this, one of the things that happened was noticing all this smoke coming up in the air. Not only is it a bit of pollution, because we have a neighbor next door who used to love buying our charcoal, but would complain about the smell of smoke. So, Google is your friend. So
Right.
I got online, started Google, how do you remove smoke from charcoal making? And in Thailand, it turns out this is a huge industry of wood vinegar, which is essentially liquid smoke. So what you do is this smoke that's coming out of here, if we want to condense it in a very cheap manner, is we've made a long, metal pipe, and then you fit this onto right here. What happens with this is now the smoke is forced to come through this pipe.
Right.
And the temperature inside is a lot higher than the ambient air temperature outside.
Right.
So it starts condensing.
Okay.
And once the smoke comes through here and it starts condensing, it'll drip out into this into a small container. And what you have here is known as liquid smoke, wood vinegar. And now if you have a smell of that,
Whoa.
it reminds you of Nyamachoma.
Yeah.
Immediately, this is what that is. So this stuff has very many interesting uses. So not only can you use it with food flavoring, and from a farmer's perspective, and this is specifically what they use it a lot for in Thailand, is an alternative organic sort of agrochemical. So you can use it to spray on your tomatoes or on your whatever. If you have white fly, mealy bugs, all of those, it controls it. And we mix it in with the seed balls as well, because not only does it prevent doo-doos, because if you can imagine that smell of fire,
Yeah.
things think there's fire, there's not
So they'll
food,
stay
stay away
away.
from it, you
Yeah.
know? And then also, it's such a complex mix of chemicals, what comes out of the smoke. It's like 300-400 different organic compounds. And so what you get that's very interesting is a lot of indigenous trees to the Mediterranean and Africa and Australia, like really hot climate places, they've adapted to respond to the chemicals in smoke. Because you can imagine if a fire goes through the savannah, it's a good time to start growing. There's
Yeah.
no more competition.
Yeah.
So this actually increases germination rates of many species of seeds
Wow.
substantially. And so that's even another use for it.
So let me ask you, Teddy. You say your maca 15 bob or something like that. How
Yeah,
much is
this
how
thing
much
will
is this
produce,
thing
so
worth?
like one round in the Jiko, you'll get about 10-15 kilos of charcoal, maybe 200 shillings worth of charcoal.
Right.
You'll collect about a litre of the smoke. On market rates right now, that's about worth 1,200 shillings.
So this is
The smoke is worth about 5 times the price of the
Yeah,
charcoal.
the charcoal.
So what I'm doing with a lot of the charcoal is I mix it into the soil, into my compost, to make biochar, because now I found out, kumbe, moshi ni pesa.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's what
this
you're
is
doing
the
now.
real gold out of the entire system of charcoal making.
That is crazy.
And sometimes it actually does really sort of hurt me to think about the last 50 years of Kenya, how much charcoal has been made, and how many people didn't know the smoke is actually where the money is.
Guys could have been miles ahead
Can you
from where we
imagine,
are.
huh?
Wow.
So this has been picked up really well. We have about just under a dozen people all over the country making it themselves for many, many, many various uses.
Okay, this system, how much is it worth?
Everything said and done for a small household one
Yeah.
is $70, 7,000 shillings. If you want a bigger business one that makes a gunia, a bag a day of charcoal, that's 15,000 shillings. You know, for most Kenyans, we know about growing your own sukuma wiki, grow your own tomatoes, and when you buy charcoal, sometimes it's dust, sometimes it's mud, sometimes it's not properly cooked.
it doesn't even
It doesn't
catch
even
fire.
work very well or anything. So now being able to grow and make your own thing for your own use, I think people are already on terms of that. And we've sold many of these all over, because with these things you can put them on a bus and send them around East Africa. So you M-Pesa us, look at the website, pick what you want, and we send it to you. You know, a lot of people use charcoal to keep baby chicks warm.
Okay.
So we've made one out at our farm in Kitengela, how this whole pipe goes underneath the chicken house. So at nighttime when you make charcoal, that heat is warming up your cuckoos.
Yeah.
And then in 3-4 months, see the cuckoo and the charcoal come to meet in one of the Jikos eventually. Really get warm.
Speaking about cuckoos and Jikos and
Jikos.
whatever, you've promised that you're going to make me some banana muffins.
Muffins, yes,
Right?
yeah.
Using your charcoal,
Using our charcoal
and your Jiko.
and our bananas.
Yeah, and your bananas.
Bananas.
So can we go and do that?
Yeah, let's go have a
Yeah,
look.
let's do that, man. Join me next week to see these amazing Cookswell Jikos in action. In a Jiko.
I'm still in the Jiko.